Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. Now, as you've come to expect from this particular program, we like to do things related to the community, things that are going on in the South Shore, whether it's an upcoming event, maybe it's a local issue. As you've seen over the past 6 months, we had a lot of folks in who are running for office. Well, that's kind of come and gone. And now we actually going to have a little bit of fun today. We're actually going to speak with two folks who are in the film industry, and they're going to talk to us about some of the things that they're doing, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera, and maybe even promote a couple of upcoming films. We have Jocelyn Padilla, who is closest to me, and we have Lindsey Elisabeth Cork, just a little bit further away from me. Ladies, welcome to CrossTalk.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. First and foremost, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Jocelyn, we'll go with you first.
What would you like to know?
You should tell me. I'm an open book. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into acting and being a director and also being a producer?
I pretty much know I wanted to do acting since I was a little girl. Unfortunately, at that time, there wasn't really any outlets for me to express that creativity, so I used a lot. I was in chorus, I did band, anything that was free at school that I was able to get my hands on, whether it was like art classes or whatnot. That's the way that I first initially got into the whole creativity. Not to mention that literally the moment I would get back home from school, I would watch movies. That would be my thing. Every day I would watch movies. I would start retaining the dialogue. My mom would find me in my bedroom just reciting the dialogue, and she knew deep down inside that's what I wanted to do when I got older. So that's like my first kind of brush. I know that I was very highly influenced by Tim Burton's films when I was younger. And I remember saying that, in my head that I wanted to be part of that somehow, some way.
Dark films. Tim Burton is
I
a
know.
dark guy.
I related to it and I loved it.
Oh, good.
But that's for me, that's my first memory of knowing I wanted to be part of films somehow.
Okay.
And as I got older, it wasn't until about 16 that I was heavily involved in a lot of Stoughton, Massachusetts, like little theater shows going on there. High school, I did a lot of theater there, did chorus, show choir, again, the same type of thing, whatever I can get my hands on. At school, that was, easily accessible to me, I would do. And then Massasoit, where I met you, we did a lot of Massasoit theater shows as well. And then I eventually auditioned and got myself into Emerson College, which took me 3 times to get in. Did that. And I was originally supposed to become a teacher and get all that going. And then I essentially knew deep down inside I was not going to become a teacher, that I wanted to do this full-time as a professional actress. And then from there, moved to New York, came back. And then for the past 3 years, I've been doing a lot of independent films here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
How about
That's
you?
Like the dumbed down version of it.
Is it okay? We'll get further into it, because you guys have done a lot of stuff, and we want to hear about it. Lindsey, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this field?
I actually am originally from West Virginia, a tiny little town. In my school, we had no drama. We had nothing. I literally had 0 experience when I moved here.
Okay.
The most I ever did growing up was I would take on different accents, different names, and different personalities and go mess with people on the street. So people would try to talk to me, and I would be a totally different person. My mom would pull me in from playing outside all the time. I was always wearing my Halloween costume. If it was July, I was Snow White, and suddenly I just stayed Snow White all day. My parents knew I wanted to be a performer, but they wanted me to have the 9-to-5 job, get married, settle down the normal life. Wasn't suited for that. That's not who I am. I also actually grew up being heavily influenced by Tim Burton as well, and that's who I pretty much would die if he hired me for one of his movies. I would just die, because I would just be my dream come true. And we actually were both heavily influenced by Helena Bonham Carter, which is Tim Burton's girlfriend. And we'll get into that later, but that's sort of how we bonded.
I see it as Tim Burton being the common thread between the two of you. So how did the two of you initially meet?
We met about 8 years ago online through Facebook.
Online role playing.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It used to be a big community of a whole bunch of people from around the world that would just take on their favorite characters and just create stories on Facebook or any kind of forum type of thing like that.
And we met a lot of our friends that way, friends from England, Virginia, New England, everywhere, all because of that.
Wow. Now, what kind of films as far as, you talk about Tim Burton, and what type of films do you each prefer? Is there a particular type of film that you prefer to watch as opposed to a particular type that you'd want to either produce or be in?
In terms of what we prefer in terms of genres of films?
Yeah.
I'm highly influenced by the golden age of Hollywood. Always have since I was about 14 years old. I started watching I Love Lucy at that age. Started listening to Frank Sinatra at 14 years old. And there's no one in my family really that really watched those shows. Like maybe once in a blue moon my parents would watch it, but I was the only one of my siblings that really got into that. I love musicals. I think of all genres, drama is my number one.
Okay.
It's most easily relatable. We all have drama in our life too, so especially like a really well written, like something that really pulls at your heartstrings type of thing where you cry at the end or you feel like you've changed somehow, changed a way of thinking slightly. It has to really move me in a sense that I feel almost different after in a good, positive light.
Okay.
My type of films.
How about you, Lindsey?
I love the golden age of Hollywood, and I love classic things. I'm more influenced by quirkier comedies, though. I like things like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay.
And like Beetlejuice, things that are very different, a little dark, but funny at the same time. Like her, she started listening to Frank Sinatra at 14. I was listening to the Rolling Stones. So like I was more on I like darker, edgier stuff, but I like comedy. I don't know why. I've always felt more attached to the comedic side. So I think life, even when it's dramatic, should be funny.
So you've each had a chance to be in a number of roles over the past couple of years, yeah? What's some of the most memorable things that you've each done in regards to films, Lindsey?
Oh, wow. I haven't had half as much experience. Like when I moved here, I did little tiny scenes or independent films from Arizona where I lived for a few years.
Yep.
Amor Sangre, which was my film, and I Am Monroe were my first huge things. And member-wise, I mean, I had a good time working with everybody. I love like the behind-the-scenes, like friendliness, the funniness, when you're like able to snap right back into work. Okay, we're working. Okay, let's get back to work. But just the bonding you're having with so many different people who want all the same thing. It's so beautiful. And just looking at the aftermath of all the stuff that you've seen you shot, you're just like, I can't believe I did this. It's almost like a parent giving birth to a child. Like, I made this. This was something I did.
How about you, Jocelyn?
Good analogy. Well, I mean, I've done a range of student films to like more higher budgeted independent films. I would definitely say, besides the two films that we were both involved in, I Am Monroe and Amor Sangre being the most memorable for me. Jonah Lives, which actually was created by a Fall River native named Louis Carvalho. He's always had this idea kind of jumping back and forth with him for about 25 years. So pretty much around the time I started filming it, it was like my whole lifetime he's been trying to get this movie started. It's a horror film about 6 teenagers who play the Ouija board, and all these crazy things happen, which is really ironic that a new Hollywood movie called The Ouija Board came out not too long ago, which is crazy. So
Be a coincidence, or do you feel there's a little shenanigans going on there?
I don't know. I really don't know. When I saw the previews of it, I'm like, wow, are you freaking kidding me? Like, our film could have been up there.
It's totally different story, though, but it still could have been.
Yeah, totally different storyline. But the thing is, just the quality of the filming. We used the Red camera, which is like really top notch.
Oh yeah.
No, the Ari camera, which is like a top notch camera. It looked beautiful. The acting was great. You can tell a lot of love and heart was put into it, and it was my first lead role ever in a film. So I jumped right into that. Obviously, I look at it back now and say, man, I wish I had done this or whatever better, but yeah, it will go down as being like my first like debut film.
You were great.
Well, so you mentioned prior that you've had experience doing stuff in theater and being up on stage. I mean, how does it pale in comparison to doing the stuff that you guys done, the stuff we're about to promote in a few moments here? I mean, do you feel that was kind of like a launching pad?
It was definitely a launching pad. It's totally different highs. I can describe it as, at least with theater, like if you don't get those lines, you have to ad-lib, you have to improv. There's no going back and doing another take, so you got that high stress. But then you have, what I miss the most from theater is that energy you get from the crowd. You feel that they're really like highly invested in that. And yeah, even though when you go to a premiere, you feel the audience.
It's different.
It's a totally different feeling and unity. So it's almost like they're part of you when you're doing theater. And with films, it's a lot more to it. It's harder, I think, because especially when you want to get something done and you want to get it done right, you have to put on a lot of different masks in order to get it done, or different shoes or whatever. Yeah, it's totally different, but they're both, in a sense, amazing. You feel alive on either spectrum, so.
Now, have you done any no theater at all, right?
Other than reading plays loud in class, I've done no theater, and I always wanted to. I actually went to a school of 100 students, started a drama club that lasted about a month because no one really wanted to be a part of it. People would like make fun of me for wanting to start a drama. I'm like, look, I just want to do what I want to do.
What's wrong with that,
I
though?
need the experience, exactly. And I tried to get people enthusiastic about it. It just plummeted, but I tried.
How did you take that experience? Something like that, where you have naysayers, and you're still yet trying to, you're still prevailing despite students telling you way back when this is not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm just way too stubborn to give up, and I refuse to give up on something I'm very passionate about. I've always been like that. So usually when kids would be like, "Oh, you want to start a drama club?" I'm like, "Shut up. At least I'm doing something."
Right.
But it's no different than dealing with, a little bit of backlash now.
Backlash is always going to happen. No matter how successful you are, people are going to be like, "Yeah, you can't do this." Well,
yeah, you still have those people who, even after you accomplishing somewhat and feeling a little bit successful, you still got those people that want to still crush you. Any way, shape, or form, they're going to do it. But with all that life experience, you learn to just become more stronger every day. And I know what I want to do with myself, and I know what I want to do in my life, and it doesn't matter how many obstacles hit my way. Trust me, there's been enough. But it's been a lot. It hasn't stopped me from doing this. So that tells me something, that since I was a kid, and finally up to this point at 28, that I haven't given up on this when it could have been so easy to give up on, such a hard career to follow and pursue. There has to be a reason for it. I'm all about that.
Well, what led you to doing your own films? You got two films that right now are in post-production.
Right.
How are those going?
I'm going to speak for myself for Am Monroe, because that is my baby project.
And yours is
Amor Sangre.
Yeah.
Totally different genres. Mine's a surreal realism mixed with fantasy, and essentially, if I can try to boil it down to one or two sentences, Am Monroe is my interpretation of what happens to our souls when we cross over. And essentially, I think that everyone has to come to terms with their past in order to be pushed through into a new life. I'm all about reincarnation. I'm very heavily influenced by New Age philosophies and stuff like that. So for me, it was just my interpretation of what happens to us when we die. Obviously, I don't know the 100% truth. I just know my truth.
None of us do.
You know?
You can't.
So it's very heavy in terms of the subject line, while hers is very
Slapstick comedy, basically.
yeah, it's
with a dark
fun.
undertone.
It's fun, and it's funny. It kind of brings you back to almost like Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett kind of style comedy, which I was so thankful
Oh
for.
yeah, but it has that dark Burton-esque undertone with it. So it's like you took Lucille Ball and Tim Burton and said, make a movie together, and this is what came out.
And you wrote this yourself.
6 years took me to write it. I've been writing it since I was 18 years old.
Really? And what would tell me the premise of the screenplay, and then having it where you're out there and you're shooting it?
The first original thing I wrote 6 years ago was actually a short story, totally different. Amor Sangre came out to be, she played Luciana, who is a 426-year-old vampire who's been isolated from humans for years, living off rats, actually, instead of human blood. She spots my character. You don't see this bit, where she actually sees my character, but she stalks my character. because she has a fascination with her because it reminds her of the woman who turned her. She kidnaps my character, takes her from her family, her husband, her children, and changes her to a vampire, so she's pretty much forced to say, you're stuck here, you're dead, you have no other choice, you have to be with me. I'm still like completely against it. My character's name is Veronica.
Okay.
Completely against it. She's like, I want to go back to my family, you're holding me hostage. Well, then I start to get hungry, and she introduces me to her rat buffet, which was so appealing, as you'll see in the movie. Blood covered rat, it's delicious. And me being the finicky little housewife, I'm like, I don't want to eat that. Can we go find people who have no hope in life, which is going to be a complete impact on the audience, because I'm basically saying, let's go find people who are hopeless, dying, prostitutes, drug addicts, homeless, people who really feel like they have no means of existence. Take them out of their misery and we still get fed. We befriend and come along a prostitute named Serena, played by Lynn Holtgren. She's a Worcester. Was she native from Worcester? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but she currently lives there.
Yeah, she currently lives in Worcester. She's fantastic. And we befriend her rather than killing her, and make an arrangement with her to say, if you give us just enough blood to get through the night, you can come off the streets, you can live with us, we'll take you in as like our family. Well, she begins to see this back and forth between us and says, why don't you let her go back to her family just for a few days, and I'll give you a quick makeover altogether, internal and external makeover, to make you more humanized so my character would fall in love with her. So a prostitute is teaching her how to love.
Oh. It's very intriguing. It's very intriguing. What's the running time on that? Is
25 minutes.
Really? Okay.
So it's very short.
What about as far as I Am Monroe? I mean, talk to me about, is this something that you wrote? Is this something that you co-wrote, somebody else wrote, and you?
It all came from my head.
Okay.
So you wrote it.
But I mean, folks think, when I think of Monroe, I think of Marilyn Monroe. I mean, is there is just a play on words?
Well, the word Monroe in a lot of different cultures means mouth of the river, because of the fact that the movie is in relation to the womb realm and rebirth and death. The whole water symbology comes into effect a lot throughout the film. Whether one of the characters is swimming in a swimming pool, or you have the ongoing river in the woods, because we shot a lot of interiors, but we shot the bulk of the womb realm outside in the forest woods. There are some influences to her life inside the film, just because I feel connected to that person. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I just felt like her life had a lot of different struggles, and I've always wondered to myself, I wonder if she would ever be able to learn those lessons, because she had a very difficult life. Mm. So just to be on the safer side, I have influences of her life inside the film, but not really blatantly saying
it's not direct.
Her. Yeah.
What have been the challenges to, going out there and shooting this? Because depending on the environment that you go out there and shoot this, depending on schedules and stuff like that, what are some of the challenges you guys had in trying to get these two films produced to where you are now, where you're post-producing them?
I feel like with Amor Sangre, just from my experience, because I was also producing that and acting in it and dealing with the marketing of that film and a lot of other things, she had a very smooth pre-production and a very smooth production. For me, for Am Monroe, I really went in there so blind, but with that ambition, and almost, I want to say I was very stubborn. I didn't want to wait, so I wanted to do it. But I didn't, all I knew was the acting side of it. I didn't know anything about directing. I didn't know that you needed hard drives to back up these clips. I didn't know that you needed, all these different elements to it. I didn't know you needed insurance and oh man, I needed locations ahead of time or backup locations. I didn't know all these things. And
but
now,
through osmosis,
yeah,
you have.
I didn't even know you needed shot list. So it's I was very blinded by the whole, as the filmmaking as a whole, because as an actress, you go in there, you think you're the, not that I ever really truly thought that about myself, but actors in a whole, they're very ego. They have that ego about them. They feel like they're going there, that if it's not for them, the movie doesn't exist. But that's not the truth. You got everyone. You got the director, the ADs, the PAs, the makeup artist, the costume designer, the
the set designer, all these different people that if it weren't for this whole unity, the movie would never happen. So I feel like for me, it opened my eyes up to a whole different world and a new understanding and love for the filmmaking process as a whole, and not just viewing as the actor being like the be-all, end-all of a film, because it's not true.
Now, who else is in Amor Sangre, and also who is in Am Monroe?
You want to go first? You have a longer casting list.
There's so many people to list, but the great thing about it, well, one of them I
You can say I may forget somebody, so I'm sorry. But here's
Andrea Kinch, who's actually a Whitman, Massachusetts native that actually is alumni of Massasoit, who did a lot of theater shows there as well. Mm-hmm. She plays Norma Jean, who is my character's previous incarnation. And she currently lives now in New York City. Okay. This is her first major role as well. We have Caroline Fournier, who is from like more South Shore, Plymouth, I believe. She's very a big name in the Boston independent film circuit. Okay. She's also doing producing for a movie called Silence, which is also going on in Fall River, which has a lot of people who are involved in Jonah Lives. We're all interconnected somehow. That's the thing.
6 degrees of separation kind of deal.
Yeah, right. My co-director, Nathan Suher, which he is from North Attleboro. He was first introduced into the whole thing because I actually did a PSA with him a couple of years ago, and it was like my third ever film that I ever did. And he did a lot of broadcasting, he did a lot of wedding videos and some short films here and there. But if it wasn't for him and a couple of other people, like the film would have never happened. He really stuck with me because we started the first production, we waited a whole entire year, and then we started up again. So for someone to hold on for that amount of time was great.
Very valuable.
Yeah, we have Andre Boudreau, we have Lily Spencer, we have, one of the girls that plays my spirit guide, Lane. Her name is Lori Bacon. She's also another really well-known actress here in New England. She actually wasn't the original Lane. We actually had a recast, and that was besides having to hold off on the film to get my personal life back in order, recasting that role was the best decision I ever made because she brought a totally different energy to that character that I didn't even think was possible.
No one could have been more perfect for Lane than Lori. Lori
that
was
character
great.
Really needs to. She brings the comedic aspect of the film and kind of lightens down the more dark sides of it.
While still keeping that motherly warmth to her. She has this nice balance.
We can figure out you play pretty much. She plays Red Death, which is the antagonist of the entire film.
Bad guy?
She's the bad guy of the film. She's my form of the devil type of thing, trying to keep me away from progressing forward. There's so many different people that I would spend the whole 30 minutes.
I know, right? That's why I had you go first, because your cast list is huge.
But one thing I gotta say that I'm all about giving people first chances with a lot of things. There's a lot of people in this film that never had even set forth on a film set before.
Why have people like that in your film? What do you feel that's?
Because I feel like throughout my lifetime, I've never really had people really give me a chance, and that's really to answer a question before you had said why did we start doing our own films, is to finally give myself a chance to do roles that no one would think. They think, oh, she's really, she's pretty, she's very talented. We'll stick her with this type of typecast. And people even thought when I got casted as the vampire that she should have played the vampire and I should have played the housewife. And that's the things that we're trying to challenge in ourselves.
We're trying to prove people wrong that I'm not always the villain. She's always not the Jennifer Aniston girl next door.
Sure.
And plus, I've been to so many auditions where it just seems like I did amazing, but I got overtaken by someone who probably couldn't have played the part as good as me. And I'm trying to show people just because I'm new, I'm still good. So that's why we've always been the underdog our entire life. Even in our family lives, we've always been the tread upon underdog. So we are trying to uplift ourselves and show people we're better than what we appear to be.
Just to let you know, we got like 5 minutes left.
All right.
Time flies when you're having
fun.
Do you want to quickly mention some of the folks in Amor Sangre?
Oh, it's very good. I have Lynn Holtgren, who I mentioned earlier, playing Serena. Very sweet, wonderful. I mean, I would recommend anybody cast her in a film. She's brilliant. We had Jocelyn playing Luciana. We had me playing Veronica, and we had a friend who never acted a day in his life playing the pimp Carlos for a brief scene. He was great. He didn't let me down at all. We had, oh God, what's Catherine's last name? I completely forgot.
Castro.
Castro, God, thank you. Catherine Castro was my DP, and she was great. She was very intense. Joe Cook on sound. I mean, again,
Our
sorry
our director was Gina Madison.
Gina Madison, thank you.
Who's from Medfield, Massachusetts.
She was helping us produce it, and she taught us a lot about the producing aspect from the technical side. Because we don't know technical stuff, so we give her pretty much a lot of the credit on teaching us production, and she was a good director.
So do you have any projects that are in the works that you're going to be able to take all this knowledge that you guys have attained from these two movies?
Yeah.
What do
We
you got
actually
in
have
the works?
one we want to work on next once these two are finished, actually. You want to
It's
tell
called Kiss of Death. It's going to be a projected 30-minute short film.
Okay.
Very brief. We call it a new age horror film where my character, kind of peer pressures her and says, hey, let me put you through a past life regression. What happens is she gets stuck in her soul's kind of go crisscross.
like my old soul
And
stuck
we
in my new
find out
body.
that her past life was Jack the Ripper, so she comes back in a female form wanting to kill off a lot of
So
guys.
instead of Jack the Ripper killing off prostitutes, he thinks, oh, I have this female sex appeal. I'm going to seduce those like male whores, like those college bros, and kill them off. And each time we're trying to progress it so the murders get more gradually intense. And then she's the hippie in the movie, so we kind of switch personalities for the movie. I'm all like prissy, and it's like our exaggerated selves, and she's playing like the hippie, like, hey, I'm gonna smoke some weed and do past life regression on you.
And then we have a lot of other works. We're doing a movie called A Daisy for Rose. It's gonna be a 5-minute, very short film about the connection between a younger girl and an older woman. There's so many different
so many
films.
different
we have a lot of
ideas.
female-driven films that we're trying
And
to
our brains
create.
never shut off. I mean, it's ridiculous. We always have new ideas.
Well, we have like 2 minutes left. Is there a way for folks? Do you have any way for folks to follow? When you're ready to release I Am Monroe and Amor Sangre, that folks can follow you?
Oh yeah, we have both pages for Facebook. We have it's just I Am Monroe with the question mark, and hers is Amor Sangre. I'm not sure if you'll be able to put the link or
Yeah,
whatnot.
we'll do that.
Yeah, we have 2 pages, and the more likes we get, the more buzz we start getting.
You
And
can look us up by our names on Facebook and add us and talk to us. I mean,
Amor Sangre is going to be hopefully premiered in March.
Okay.
And then I Am Monroe is going to be premiered in the summertime. So we're trying to get our teaser trailers out,
Bang 'em
trying
out
to
right
get
after
all
the
the
other.
marketing together and getting all that. So they
Yeah.
can definitely find us on Facebook and Twitter and all that.
definitely.
We got less than a minute left here. If there's something you wanted to say to any aspired person, maybe a younger person out there who was a younger Jocelyn or a younger Lindsey who are going, what would you say to them right now? Less than a
Don't
minute.
give up. Things get better. Don't let anyone bring you down. You're going to do it.
Yeah, just no matter what anybody tells you, always be yourself. I was the freaky kid in high school. Be the freaky kid. Be the weird kid. As long as you're not hurting anybody, do your thing. Live by your own colors. You don't have to be black and white like everybody else.
Well, I want to thank both of you coming in and sharing your story. And
Thank you.
that's another episode of CrossTalk. Until next time, have a great day.